Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So today I'm filming in a different part of the house because it's a little bit warm in my workshop. It's really hot where I live today, so I just wanted to be in a more comfortable part of the house. So I hope you dolls don't mind. So today, before we get to the featured video, I need to introduce the newest dolls to the rooming house community to you all, so you'll know who they are and what their roles are when they're introduced into the story. So these are the dolls that I made in a previous video. I will leave a link in the description of when I purchased them, when I dressed them, and when I did and added their hair. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce them. So not only am I going to introduce them and tell you their names, and I'm going to give you their roles. Okay, so we're going to start out with, I'm going to take his hat off. He wants to meet everybody. So this is Big Bo Baker. So they call him Big Bo. Now I'm not sure if they're referring to his bow tie or his bow legs, but they call him Big Bo Baker, and he is actually family to Marva or Marguerite's parents. So him and his wife are the aunt and uncle to Marguerite and her family. So it's actually Marguerite's mother, and this is Marguerite's mother's brother and his wife. So you'll be able to kind of see the story a little bit more, but this is Big Bo Baker. So I just want you to see him. He's got his hat on, he's dressed really nice. He's all ready for the wedding. So let me introduce his wife. Now his wife is this other lovely doll. Now they're all porcelain family. This is his wife, and her name is Miss Fiona. So her name is Fiona Baker. So it's Big Bo and Fiona. And again, this is Miss Marva's brother, and this is his wife. So Fiona and Big Bo. So keep this in mind. This is Marguerite's aunt and uncle, her mom's brother, and his wife. So these are the first two dolls. Okay. So then there is his wife's mother, and this is his wife's mother, and her name is Miss Clara. Now Miss Clara is an older lady, but she refuses to allow her hair to get gray, so her hair is jet black, but she's a lovely lady, very sweet, very loving. But again, she is Big Bo's mother-in-law, which is the mother to his wife. So this is Fiona, and this is her mother, Clara. And again, this is wife and mother-in-law of Big Bo. All right, so let me go on back here. So in addition to them, now in their family, they have two children. And the first child is little Eugene. Now little Eugene is pretty young. He's only maybe about 6. So he's kind of little. He's the doll that I got at the estate sale, and he was the only child doll in that collection. So I definitely had to get him. So he is their son. They had their children kind of late because they're a little older couple, but they had their children a little bit later. And then this is their daughter, and her name is Winter. Now Winter is the little doll. Remember, I don't know if I told you all, she's the one with the bent knees, so she doesn't stand up. She's always kind of like on her knees. So this is the brother and sister. So this is Winter, and this is Eugene, and they're the children to Fiona and Big Bo. And again, Big Bo and Fiona are a little bit older, so they kind of got married late, so they had their children a little bit later. Now, something you do need to know about little Eugene. Little Eugene is got a toy that he's kind of fixated on, and he really always wants to just ride his bear. So he's always going to be found somewhere on the bear, and it's going to kind of create a slight conflict with the other children because he always wants to be on the bear, and he really kind of hasn't learned to share yet because by him having parents that are a little bit older, him and his sister Winter are a little bit privileged. So it's going to be a different experience for them among the other children. But this is little Eugene, his sister Winter here with the bent knees, and again, Those are the children to Big Bo and Miss Fiona. Okay, so got them in order. So in addition to those two dolls, now those are Marguerite's aunt, uncle, and their cousins on her mom's side. Now, Sadi's parents are gone back to the creator, but he does have some cousins. And so here is his cousin Zaire. His cousin Zaire. Now, his cousin is the one that I made. He's got the kind of reddish hair. And he is coming to the wedding. And he brought his lovely wife, Molly. So Molly is Zaire's wife. And they are coming to celebrate with Sadi and to support him. And they're bringing gifts from other family members of Sadi's, so that he'll know that the rest of the family is supporting him, although his family is not, his mom and dad are not available to be here. But Zaire and his wife are arriving at the rooming house at the same time that Marguerite's aunt, uncle, and cousins are going to show up as well. So I just wanted to introduce those new characters so you can keep everybody in order. I know there are quite a few dolls with different roles, and some dolls you don't see all that often, but these are the newest ones to the rooming house story, so I want you to know their names. So this is little Miss Molly. Molly is Zaire's wife. Both of them kind of have reddish looking hair, so that's they are a couple. Again, you got Big Bo and his wife Fiona. And then her mother, Miss Clara, again, who is older, but she has black hair because she refuses to allow it to go gray. And then we've got little Winter and little Eugene, who is always on his teddy bear or on his bear. Okay? All right. So now we can go ahead and get to the story. And this will be the last story until we actually get to Marguerite and Sadi's wedding. I hope you dolls enjoy it. So let's go on to the story. In our last episode, Marguerite had received so many beautiful gifts at her bridal send-off that she could hardly decide what to take with her on her honeymoon and what to leave behind. Aunt Charlotte and Violet were delighted that Marguerite had asked them to help her. It gave them a chance to ooh and ah over the beautiful things she had received all over again. Suddenly, Marguerite and Violet began to blush as Aunt Charlotte advised Marguerite that she was packing too many clothes. Aunt Charlotte gently assured Marguerite that she would only need something to travel in and an outfit to come home in. Marguerite always got nervous when the married ladies said things like that. Later that week, Marguerite's mom, Marva, consulted with Isabel, Miss Maisie, and talked to Aunt Edna about the arrangement of the furniture in the parlor for the wedding ceremony. They all agreed that there would need to be more chairs and that the regular furniture would need to be moved out of the parlor to make room for the additional seats. Meanwhile, over in the dining room, Aunt Bess, Aunt Janie, and Lillian were trying to figure out ways to arrange the dining room and come up with wonderful decorations to make sure Sadi and Marguerite had a wedding day they'd never forget. As the evening wore on, the rest of the ladies joined in to help with the coordination of the decorations as well. After lunch, the men spent the whole day on the second floor trying to clear out the room that Marguerite and Sadi would have after they came back from their honeymoon and make sure they brought down the chairs for the ceremony. Plus, they had to ensure that the accommodations were ready for the additional guests that were coming to the rooming house. On the third floor, the younger boys were playing in the attic, trying to get in the last of their fun before the men turned that room into a bedroom. A little later that afternoon, Sterling and Marva were having a conversation about their family coming to the rooming house for the wedding and their plans to move out of the rooming house shortly after Marguerite and Sadi get married. Marva was very excited because she definitely felt like she needed more room for all of her things. Sterling assured her it wouldn't be long before they'd be moving. Little did they know, little Claude was outside their door listening, and he only got part of the story. From his understanding, all he heard is that they were moving after Marguerite gets married. He felt like Marguerite getting married was going to break up their family. At that point, he really didn't like Sadi very much. He actually kind of resented him. Aunt Charlotte and Violet were excluded from a lot of the work preparing for the wedding because they were both expecting, but they still wanted to assist. Big Ma told them to go ahead and start picking out comfortable accommodations for the wedding guests that are staying over at the rooming house. She advised them there were two families coming and that they would need linens, pillows, and blankets. She advised them to make sure everything was all prepared so that when the men finished the rooms that the linens would be ready. After Claude's session of eavesdropping, he had to tell somebody about what he heard, and he immediately went and told little Mabel. Although Claude loved his little sister Mabel, he generally didn't share things with her because she told their grandmother everything. They both were very close to their grandmother, but Mabel didn't understand yet that some things were just among the children. She felt really sad and kind of worried, and she really didn't know what to do. Claude told her to promise that she wouldn't tell anyone, and she promised. And after Claude left to go play with the boys, little Mabel started to cry. She cried so hard and so long she fell asleep. On top of all the other work the men had to do, Pop realized that they would need to move these trunks and luggage out of the hallway so Marguerite could enter the parlor. When little Mabel woke up from her tear-induced nap, she came up with a plan. She had an idea on how to stop the wedding and keep Marguerite from leaving the family. Little Mabel started digging through her grandmother's keepsake trunk. She was so into her search she didn't hear her grandmother come up the back stairs. When Miss Maisie realized that Mabel was in the trunk, she paused and walked even more lightly. Miss Maisie had a way about her she could just ease up on you without you knowing it. And then she calmly asked Mabel, "Did you find it?" Startled and embarrassed, little Mabel stood up and slammed the trunk closed. Her grandmother told her to sit on the trunk, and she did. As soon as she sat on the trunk, she opened her hand, and Miss Maisie's beloved brooch fell out. Miss Maisie asked little Mabel why she had taken it, and she told her grandmother everything that Claude had said he heard. Miss Maisie let her know that she heard her and that she understands, but she made it clear to Mabel that it wasn't right for her to take things that don't belong to her. She told her grandmother that she needed to stop Marguerite from getting married so that the family would stay together. She made Mabel understand that taking the brooch was not going to stop the wedding, but that the brooch was very special and we have to keep it safe. At that point, Miss Maisie knew she had to put an end to the children's mischief. When she called Claude upstairs, he told her to go get his sister Marguerite and to meet her and Mabel in the parlor. On their way down to the parlor, Miss Maisie took little Mabel in the bathroom to wash her face and wipe her tears away, and as she wiped her face and made her smile, she told her that brooch was very special to their family and that one day she'd wear it on her wedding day. When they all met Marguerite in the parlor and Miss Maisie told her what was going on, Claude was a little bit mad at little Mabel, but he was glad that they were able to talk about everything. Marguerite hugged both her brother and little sister really tight and assured them that she wasn't going away and that she would always be their sister, and that in fact they were gaining a big brother, that SAIDI would be their big brother. Then Claude just broke down because now he felt like he didn't know where he fit in. Claude almost felt like somehow he was being replaced. He was always Marguerite's only brother and Mabel's oldest brother, so now who was he? Marguerite gently tried to explain to Claude that he would always be her brother, but that SAIDI would be her husband, but he would be like a big brother to him and Mabel. Claude listened intently and was trying hard not to cry anymore. Sometimes he felt frustrated because he felt old around the little boys, but he felt small around the men. And now he's being replaced by an older brother. When he was done talking to his sisters and grandmother in the parlor, he went up to the attic to play with the boys before the men started clearing things out. Just then, Grandpa called him and told him to come down. He let him know he was going to be very busy up until the time for the wedding because they'd be fixing up the room for his sister and her new husband. It had been such a long day, and Big Ma was relieved that it was over. She felt like with only a few days left before the wedding, nothing could go wrong at this point. Early the next morning, right after breakfast, the parlor was full of guests. As Marguerite's family greeted everyone, Big Bo Baker, her uncle, apologized to Big Daddy that they had arrived early due to a railroad strike. He introduced his son Eugene, who was on the bear, and his daughter Winter. Big Bo's wife Fiona and her mother Clara were having pleasant conversation with Big Ma. In the midst of all the chatter and greetings, SAIDI's cousin and his wife entered the parlor. And as he stepped up to Big Daddy, he introduced himself as Zaire, and that this was his wife Molly, and that they were SAIDI's cousins. Big Daddy welcomed them both and let him know that they were glad that they got there safely. Big Ma graciously welcomed everyone as well, although she was a little bit concerned because they weren't prepared for all these guests so soon. But Big Ma told everyone to make themselves at home and that she would make sure that they were comfortable during their stay. Big Bo and his wife Fiona commented on how warm and loving that greeting was. She felt like they were going to have a lovely stay there at the rooming house. Big Ma asked everyone for patience while her and the other ladies get things together to organize the sleeping arrangements for everyone. Just then, Big Daddy eased up behind Big Ma and put his arm around her to support her, to reassure her and remind her that he was with her to get through these long days ahead, getting ready for the wedding, making accommodations for the guests, and to make sure everything was in order. His gentle touch reminded her that they had gotten through many years together.